Hi, 4th grade. We are here for chapter 28 of the Aurora County All-Stars. The end of chapter 27 ended with House really overdoing it, pitching way too hard and hurting himself. His elbow is in a lot of pain, and everyone's gathered around him in kind of this exciting moment at the end of chapter 27. That's also a horrible moment, and we'll find out what happens to House in this chapter. Okay, chapter 28 starts with a quote by Roberto Clemente, right fielder of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Anytime you have an opportunity to make a difference in this world and you don't, then you are wasting your time on Earth. Okay, here we go. Honey, House, Leonard Jackson, and Eudora waited in Doc McCree's office for the verdict. House knew what he would do, regardless of what was wrong with his arm. The x-rays show nothing broken, House, said Doc McCree, but you've sprained a ligament in your elbow. You'll heal, and you'll play again, but you need to rest it for a week or two. That game is going to be a problem. The game's no problem, said House, tears of relief slipping down his cheeks, disappointment rising like bile in his throat. I quit. What? House's father let Honey slide off his lap. I quit, said House. He couldn't help crying now, and he didn't care. He felt like something broken, sitting there with a rag of an arm and a worn-out heart. Honey tiptoed over to her brother and massaged the roundness of his knee like it was a mound of cookie dough, and she was patting it into shape. It would be best to rest it, Leonard, said Doc McCree. Leonard Jackson nodded. They sat in silence on the ride home, as if they were carrying a corpse in the back of the truck. Honey's eggs went under a heat lamp in the shed. She was wilted over like a little flower and flushed in sleep. House refused supper and sat on the front porch with a bag of frozen peas wrapped in a dish towel on his elbow. As soon as his father had put Honey to bed, House peppered him with questions. Why didn't you tell me about Mama being related to Mr. Norwood Boyd? She wasn't related, exactly, said his father, but I know what you mean. Why didn't you tell me? I don't know, House. It didn't come up. Why didn't you bring it up? I suppose I could have. I didn't know Norwood. Your mother did. After she died, I was busy with you and Honey and my own sadness and yours. House adjusted his peas, removed his baseball cap, and tossed it onto the porch planks. I should have known about it, he said. Somebody should have told me. You're probably right, said his father. You're a quiet boy. I didn't think to tell you. His father sat down. I don't always do it right, House. His voice sounded as worn out as old tires. I guess what I've really got going for me is I work at it. What else do you want to know? I'll tell you whatever I know. I want to know everything. I'm glad you're asking. A long, cream-colored car crunched up the driveway. Pip sat behind the wheel. The girl sitting next to him had to be Finesse. House buried his face in his hands. Not her. Yes, her, but she looked different. She was dressed in a pair of shorts and a plain black t-shirt. She wore black flip-flops. Her hair, usually a wild and wiry explosion, was plaited into neat rows. Her face was scrubbed clean. She looked like someone else, someone House used to know. Under her arm, she carried her straw tote bag. Pip gave a wave toward the porch as he climbed out of his car. I came to check on the young squire here, and to see if you were done servicing my electric clippers, Leonard. Just finishing them up today, said Leonard, lifting a hand in return greeting. They're in the workshop. Let's go visit them, said Pip. Leonard patted House on the shoulder. I'm ready to talk when you are. He walked to the shed with Pip in the spangled light of early evening. Finesse leaned against the porch railing. What did Doc McCree say? It's a sprain. Can you play? No. Do we have someone else who can pitch? We need Koufax if we want to win this game. Do you know who that is? Finesse shook her head. Sandy Koufax. He's the greatest baseball pitcher who ever lived. He's in that box of cards you gave me. Do you want them back? You'll have to ask Uncle Jim Bob, said Finesse. They're his. Really? House rubbed at his chin with the back of his hand. Really? Poppy told me I could loan them to you. She rummaged in her tote bag and pulled out a green hook. I've got something else to show you. I've got one too. House blinked twice, hard, as if to clear his vision. Of course there would be another copy of Leaves of Grass. There were probably thousands. Finesse opened the book to the front inside cover and showed it to House. Gladys Schatz was written in a careful script, the same script that was on the inside of his book, from your friend Elizabeth. We used to play together when we were little, you and I, Finesse said. Our mamas were friends. House rocked back in his chair and let out a long breath. Yeah. I remember the symphony song too. House rocked forward and stopped cold. You do? Finesse nodded. My mama sang it. Little birds were singing in the pecan trees. It was so perfect. House held his breath, and right there on House's front porch, as the sun began to dip behind the pines and shadows slanted long across the dirt yard, Finesse sang the symphony song in a soft, sweet voice and in no hurry. House felt every note, right down to the tingling in his toes. He didn't know where to look, so he stared at the empty clothesline. He had no words. Are you okay? Asked Finesse when she'd finished. Yeah, just thinking. The symphony true, said Finesse. I think it's what's left when all the noise stops, when you get quiet and listen for your own true heart. House adjusted his peas. A rosy light lay over the front dirt yard, spilling into the goldenrod by the woods. What are you thinking about? Finesse asked as she tucked Leaves of Grass into her tote bag. I'm thinking about Pee Wee Reese. Who's that? He's a shortstop. Is he good? Real good. What does a shortstop do? He plays between second and third base. He snags most of the ground balls and he covers second base in a double play. Does this Pee Wee live near here? The corners of House's mouth turned up in a smile. No. Too bad, said Finesse. We could use a good shortstop. Yes? We could, said House, and he looked at Finesse. Her face wore such an earnest look. House reached into his mind, and a question suggested itself. What's the French word for toad? Why would you want to know that? House shrugged and put his hands on the arms of the rocker. There's a lot of them around here. Finesse pulled out an English-French dictionary out of her straw tote bag. House watched her leaf through the pages. She ran her finger down a page and considered what she found there. Crapaud, she said. Then she giggled, a real girl giggle. House smiled so widely his ears ran back along his scalp. Crapaud? Oui, said Finesse with another giggle. Crapaud! House couldn't help himself. Crapaud? He hooted, and he laughed. The peas fell onto the porch planks. Finesse laughed too as the evening breeze started to push the sun down so it could cool the day. So I'll see you tomorrow? House shook his head. No. Why not? You could coach. I'm done, House said. I thought I knew something, but I don't. Well, I know something, said Finesse. Her voice was shot through with surety. What? We need you, she said. You're part of the symphony troupe. All right, 4th grade, that's the end of chapter 28. Big chapter. Another chapter full of House and Francis and the continuing conflict. This is the first time they've shared a laugh together. At first, when she showed up, he said, not her. He clearly did not want to see Frances in this moment, right after finding out that his elbow's sprained. But then she hung around and they had a really nice conversation, and they ended up cracking up about the word toad in French. And the whole chapter just has kind of an interesting feel, where Frances is letting House know, we need you. Like, we need you to play in this game, even though House is saying he's done and that he quits. Another big thing from this chapter was that Frances knows the Symphony True song. The song that his mother used to sing to him, to House. She knows it, and her mom sang the same song to her. So 4th graders, this is really a moment where House and Frances have some things in common for the first time in the story. They both have Leaves of Grass, the book. They both were sang the symphony song. Their mothers were friends. So there's a lot more connection here between these two characters than we've ever seen before. So now the big question is, will House play in the game? Will he change his mind about quitting? Will he play with a hurt elbow? Will he coach? What's going to happen? We will find out in the next chapter of the Aurora County All-Stars. See you later.